And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome in to the Book Club Bros podcast. I know I have like a little bit of an
I'm just
announcer
now
voice
realizing. I'm
because
just now
I'm
realizing
under
you're.
the weather.
I would just now realize that.
I'm under the
I hadn't
weather.
even looked at your face that close, and I
Yeah.
was looking at you talk, and I was like, "He's a little sick."
Yeah.
I hope I didn't get you sick,
Nah,
because
I
I'm
don't. I
finally
don't
getting
think so.
over it.
I don't. Well, I mean, if you
Weird,
did, you did. But either way,
dude. I'm
yeah,
still getting
yeah.
over it. So,
But
that's
yeah.
fine.
So I got a little bit of an announcer voice. But yeah, welcome in.
I know.
Guys.
I heard. I was
Welcome
like,
in.
his voice is a little different. I looked up. I was like, oh, his nose is a little
But
red.
but yeah, guys, welcome into the Book Club Pros podcast. If you are new here, we are reading through The Atomic Habits by James Clear, and this is part 2. So we just read from chapter 5 all the way up to chapter 10. So a little bit of a read. I think it was like 60 or 70 pages, but it's still an easy read. And overall thoughts, guys.
I like it. We've actually almost split this book perfectly on the numbers that we were supposed to so far.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you got to go forward and back. We've been about 60, upper 60s on everything, but no, I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, I know you're the first
it
one.
is my-
First,
it
this
is
is
my
your
book.
first impression.
Yeah, it is my book.
That's too, yeah, because I've heard of it because I remember it from the audiobook,
Audio.
and then actually Miguel was just talking about he was vividly remembering this section, so it's really coming back to him. But
How did you stumble upon this book? Were you on Amazon just looking up what's a good book to read? How did you get on this book?
Actually, yes.
That's exactly why he
what it
figured.
was.
That's exactly
Yeah.
why
is that what you did?
I mean, kind of. I mean, like I was looking at other places, and then I went to Amazon, and I was like, "Oh, this is like a really highly rated book." So, I mean, I just never read before doing this. So, I
Mm.
mean, that's why you would have been on it, because I was like, "Oh, this one looks like it's gonna be really good." And I was like, "There's no way he's heard it and he's read it."
Mm.
I was like, "What the heck?" Should have chose the other book if it's between two. You probably read that one too.
No, well,
That's
yeah,
good.
next time. All
Yeah,
right,
that's true.
let's dive right in. Chapter 5: The best way to start a new habit. Let me see if I got any highlight. My first highlight's on 73. Yeah.
One on 70.
Go ahead.
Implementation intention, which is a plan you make beforehand about when and where to act. So this is just breaking down. Oh, well, I might as well finish that.
Go.
That is how you intend to implement a particular habit. So they started talking. Well, James Clear starts getting into like different ways of pretty much tricking your mind into getting into specific habits and then phrasing it in a certain way. So yeah, I just thought I highlighted that part just because like yeah, this is the start of what is going to become a habit through certain verbiage that you use.
Mm.
And I think that something I've really started to notice, I mean, like we said, we're almost a year into reading these books now, and you start to see key components from a different book show up in the other book because they're like foundations of what you need to do. Like this really goes into like even this chapter specifically talks about having a plan of like what you're going to do, like not have like having the details figured out. Some people have their ideas too vague. And that could be the same thing as your personal finance book where we were reading about the millionaire where you got to have a plan and you got to stick to it. If you don't have a like all millionaires have a plan. They know exactly what they're spending. All people trying to change their behaviors and their habits have a plan.
Mm.
They know exactly like what they are supposed to do, what they aren't supposed to do, and what like cues and decisions lead to like certain rewards and stuff like that. Where it's like, I mean, I noticed that big time in this like in this section of the reading. Like I felt a few different things from like other books we had read really started to kind of like peek through. I thought that was kind of crazy.
Well, building on top of that, I think you're really referencing the Robe effect.
Oh right.
And this was big in our, I think was it previous book where some guy was the Diderot effect is what they called it. Where this was on 73. This is my highlight, I guess. Where
I see it.
basically what happened was
That's what I was talking
right.
about.
This guy named Diderot, Dennis Diderot, was like a encyclopedia writer, and was kind of struggling with money, and then suddenly was given like basically $150,000 of today's equivalent money, and so then the first thing he did was he bought a beautiful robe, but then the beautiful robe didn't match any of his other common possessions. There was no more ordination, no more unity, no more beauty. So then like he slowly had the urge to upgrade all those possessions, and so that kind of brings back the first thing that when I read this was thinking about that Rolex or not the Rolex,
The rug.
the Rolls Royce,
Oh, the Rolls
and
Royce.
how
Okay, okay.
the one guy was like, "No, don't give it to me because
Right.
it's gonna
It's
that
gonna
lifestyle
change
creep."
Yeah.
But yeah, so it is weird that like, yeah, I agree. Where like some ideas and stuff like that,
They translate.
they'll translate.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's the exact section that I was talking about. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but next thing is I thought was really interesting was the habit stacking formula,
Mm-hmm.
where building off of a habit that you already identify that you do every day, but then you attach it to something else is what it basically is. I
Right.
will, after I brush my teeth, I will meditate, stuff like that. So then you associate one habit with the other, and that is an interesting way to kind of ease the gap, so it's not as much of a abrupt way of just like changing your routine too much.
And I think it's so good to be able to read because it makes the obvious like known. Like it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, I think this relates to this portion. I don't know if they talk about it more later where it's like, I want to work out more, but like where are you going to do it? Like where in your day are you going to do it? You have to be like, I want to work out more. So whenever I get up from my desk to go eat lunch, I'm going to do 10 push-ups right then and there.
Oh, right.
Because when else are you going to do it? Then you're just going to go throughout the course of your day. By the end of the day, you're tired. You're not, unless you're a right before I go to bed push-up person. Like, then you're not going to have something like that. So it's before I open my laptop, I'm going to do 10 push-ups. Before I take my lunch out of the fridge, I'm going to do 10 push-ups. If you're just, I want to work out more, I want to read more. Well, I mean, then what, like, where in your day are you mentally? Because that's kind of like how we are. We're creatures of habit. So it's like, if you don't, I've even noticed that, like, whenever I've tried to try and add certain stuff, it's just like, I want to do, like, I legitimately want to do this. But by the time I get wrapped up into my own routine, it's like, I'm sitting down and it's like, oh, okay, well, my book's over there and I'm already sitting down watching TV. So, like, now I'm not like,
Yeah.
now I want to do it, but I don't really, really want to do it like I wanted to in the morning or like it's like having certain times and like you have to build out in your head and create that space to do it or else you're just going to be, I want to do this and
Yeah.
not actually get it done.
Yep. Comes back to having a plan and a goal. Did you guys have anything else for chapter 5?
I got one on 77 real quick.
77.
No matter how you use the strategy, the secret to creating a successful habit stack is selecting the right cue to kick things off. So I think I don't remember the exact example off the top of my head, but the cues that he was talking about is just like, now I feel like I need to find it. So something like wanting to go work out, perfect example. We'll just build off of that. Having your clothes ready, like having your shoes ready, or like even in the example, it's like after I get off of work and I take off my shoes, I'll change straight into my work clothes.
Right.
So it just like it compiles. So you're already getting off of work, you're already changing to get comfortable. So instead of changing to get comfortable, change into your workout clothes so you can go and do that.
And it like sets you up for success. Another one that they used because I thought about this specifically was like you want to read more. Then right whenever you get up out of bed and you make your bed, put your book on your pillow.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like okay, whenever but like before you lay your head on your pillow, you either have to move your book and say I'm not reading, or you have to pick up your book and say I'm gonna read.
Yeah.
Like if you keep it, like if you kind of keep it out of your way, like that's just. I mean that's like the natural thing to do. Like I mean once you kind of get your habits established and stuff like that, it's so easy. I don't know if this is like the most if this is the nicest way to put it, but it's so easy to not improve.
Mm-hmm.
To like just be like, hey, I've got like you spend your whole life like studying and working and you got to get smarter and you got to pass tests and then if you're going to school or whatever avenue it is or if you're working to get smarter at whatever job it is and then once you like if you decide like I know enough to do what I need to do, then like it's sometimes I just feel like it's easy to just be like, okay, I got like I'm good enough right now. Like I can function at this level.
Yeah, to be complacent.
Like easily.
Right.
Like it's easier to just function at that level than it is to like to learn anything. Like in my brain, I was like, I can't imagine going to school again. Like at this day, like if they said, I have the knowledge of an 8th grader right now, and I need to go back to high school for 4 more years, like sit in class from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and just like go learn and stuff like that. I don't feel like I could even want to do that. And obviously, we're all a little bit different. But I mean, whenever I was in high school, it was just like whatever. Like I'm going to school, I'm learning. It's what I'm doing. Like right now, it feels like I have less of the mental capacity to want to do that after spending so much time trying to grow, grow, grow. It feels like yeah, it's so easy to just get like be complacent with where you're at once you get to a certain level.
Yeah, I could see that as just depending on what you want to achieve too.
Right.
You know, comparing it to high school, like everyone's basically quote unquote forced to go to high school.
Right.
So, but I feel like if you're going back to school, like that's because like you want to become something like that. I feel like Miguel, you can kind of speak on that right now because you're kind of going back to school now.
Yep.
So how does that change kind of been recently?
Bro, like you said, you have to really want to do it.
Right.
Because it's like another side of it is I need structure in my life to be able to accomplish certain things, just like school.
True.
But yeah, like you have to really want to do it because for a while I was just like, okay, I'm gonna try this out, but then it's like, okay, like now I have to take that next step. Let me get signed up. Let me start this and like get it going. Because yeah, bro, if you don't really want to do it, you're just gonna be like, all right, whatever. Like it's a thought that I have, so let me just keep it there. Not really gonna do much with it. But when you really want to go and do it, then yeah,
Yeah,
action.
I'm always curious to know like the people that go back to school because no one's forcing you. So like how does it feel differently to like do you feel like it's school or do you feel like you're working something different? Like it doesn't feel like it was school like high school or going to college.
Before you go, I just feel like I feel like you're. Whenever I was like, because whenever I was in college, there were some people that were in my classes that were like going back to school. Like I was in class with like some, 30, 40, 50-year-olds,
time.
like whatever it is. And it's like, it's like, I don't want to say they have not an unfair advantage or whatever it is, but they're more cognizant of the money they're putting in is what is like from a young age. It was just like the first thing I thought of was, I'm in all this student debt or whatever it is. It's not like it was crazy for me for some, it's varying degrees, but you take out loans, you're not paying your student debt yet or anything like that because you're going to college. Once you're out of college or whatever, or even say you never went and you want to go back, then you're like putting your own money, whatever you've made or whatever you plan on loans you're reasonably taking out. I think part of, I mean, even to speak to Gary Vee, we've read a book on him before, and he's a lot of the reason that I ended up dropping out of college or kind of had the confidence to do it is like, whenever you're making that decision, almost like it's not to the degree of signing your life away, but you're only 16, 17, 18 years old, and it's just kind of the norm where it's just like not that many people, I feel like, at least a very small percentage of people are like, how is this going to affect me? Like, should I be going to college right now? Should I be spending this much right now? Well, my buddy right here is going to Mizzou for $50,000 and he's not freaking out about it.
Right.
Why should I freak out about it? And then eventually by the fourth year that you're in college, you've matured, you've grown up, and then you're looking at the numbers and you're like, I'm not sure 4 years ago I would have done that.
Right. The bill
in
comes
this
due.
moment right now.
Right.
Where it's just like, yeah, I mean, there's all kind of different ways to look at it. But I've always thought that people that go back to college, first off, like, I mean, I was never someone that was in love with school. I would honestly but I also wasn't on the other side of the spectrum where it was like I was bad at class and just didn't do anything. I just was good and didn't enjoy it.
Right.
I could just go there and get it done. So I've never been super, that's why I couldn't even finish off my last semester. But before I graduated, like I was just like, this isn't going to benefit me right now. But I mean, I do have a bunch of respect for people that are like, because that's a whole new, whatever your other life for most people doesn't stop. So it's almost like you're building on top of, like whenever you're in college, it's basically your identity until you get out of it. I mean, if you're going back to college, you likely have some form of a different life outside of that you're also stacking this on top of. I'm like, all right, props to you.
Oh yeah, it's definitely mad props to anyone that's going back to achieve anything. It's crazy. Yeah. Moving on. Anything that was it for chapter 5? Anyone's got anything else?
Good to go.
Chapter 6. Motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more.
This was a good chapter for like store owners. Maybe think about the gas station a little bit and just like some of the concepts and stuff like that.
The water and
like the first one was on 82 is talking about people often choose products not because of what they are, but because of where they are. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. Despite our unique personalities, certain behaviors tend to arise again and again under certain environmental conditions. So they even use the story of like heroin addicts only being heroin addicts whenever they're overseas in the military. Then you come home, you're away from like all those other influences. And I think like that's like, you know, you can relate it to all different types of stuff. You can relate it to trying to reform from prison. You can relate it to trying to reform from rehab, where it's like, okay, you go to rehab and no one's doing drugs. And it's like, I don't want to do drugs anymore
Right.
because no one's doing drugs. And then you literally go home and everyone else that wasn't as bad or got to the degree that you were or felt like they needed help is still living their lives. Like, it's interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely a mental battle that like a lot of people have to deal with is like you want to get better, but then and you almost realize that like either your friends, your family, or your current living situation is influencing you, but then to actually leave that all and if it's a bad job or stuff like that, taking that risk of leaving just for your betterment, like that's a big leap. I thought it was really interesting. I had a highlight on 83, and it says, we like to think that we are in control. If we choose water over soda, we assume that it's because we wanted to do so. The truth, however, is that many of the actions that we take on each day are shaped not by purposeful drive and choice, but the most obvious option. And I think was it this entire section where this was make it obvious? Because the first one was make it visible, I think it was make it.
This is, and by this one, no, the other one was kind of about making it obvious, wasn't it? Like
Make it. Oh, okay. We're still in the first law.
Oh no, yeah, we're still in the first law. Yeah,
Yeah. So make
So
it
that's
make
what
it
the-
obvious.
we're
But
about
yeah,
to transition.
I think it's very interesting. Just how that kind of applies to everything. Makes you realize you're like, man, like what was actually my decision? You're like, was I actually influenced here? And you just don't even realize. Like, there's no way to
It
tell.
takes a
too.
level of thought that most people probably don't even get to. Like if
Oh.
you're not trying to read and stuff like that, it's honestly it's very funny, just to be like, gosh, I'll like be watching an episode of The Simpsons, right? And this show's forever old. Like they've been doing this forever. I'm only like on season 8 or 9 or whatever it is. I'll just watch it in my free time. And the amount of patronizing stuff that you will see in these episodes. And this is, I don't want to say it's only for kids, but it's mostly for kids to a certain extent. And it's just like, it's like, that is insulting because I'm thinking about it. Like I'm thinking about what you just said, and that's insulting. But it's also very funny in a dumb way where it's just like, oh, okay, like I saw something where it's just they were running for president or something like that, and they're like, I can't remember the exact example, but it was just like, oh, we don't need to gain, we just need to gain the people, like the opinions of people that like actually matter. We'll throw whatever useless junk that we want on the internet for all these idiots to argue about. And then I thought of social media, and social media wasn't even a thing back then. It's almost like a foreshadowing to social media. And then now it's almost to where like I've even found myself getting not even wrapped up in, but I'll be on Twitter or something, and you'll be just like be scrolling. You'll be like, all these different people are commenting on this certain thing, and it's just like, oh my gosh, that's got to be like ruining them or something, or that's. But then if you're a human or something like that, your natural response would be, I don't care about what's going on the internet. But like I feel like this generation's maybe gotten a little bit more conditioned to care what's going on the internet. But for the vast, like, it's just a bunch of like everyone's got a public opinion now.
Yeah, a lot of it's noise.
Like a lot of it's
Yeah.
just noise, and like because you'll see an outcry or an outrage about a certain thing, and it's gone, because there's so much things to get. And then if you think about that, you're just like, bro, like, you could really do whatever. Like something else will trump it in a week max. Like
Yeah.
whatever your worst thing is, whatever the worst crime, whatever the worst part about you is going, like someone else will come along and take that, and just like the more exposure that we get, the more it's just like, are we being like suckered? Like you can really control anything, or like we don't really know what's going on. We just know what's being portrayed
Right.
to a certain extent, where it almost takes the like that's what the episode was kind of like subtly hinting at, is where it's just like, just feed them this news. This will get them off this. Oh, you
Yeah.
got this right here. This will get them off this, and then we're good. We're back to doing whatever we want to do in this field. And I'm just like, man, like when you really learn to think and stuff like that, it just kind of gives you a whole different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it is.
I had something on 84, 85.
Go ahead.
I thought this was really interesting. He kind of goes into your senses.
I highlighted this.
You got that too?
Yeah, I got
The
it.
most powerful of all human sensory abilities, however, is vision. The human body is about 11 million has about 11 million sensory receptors. Approximately 10 million of those out of the 11 are dedicated to sight. Some experts estimate that half of the brain's resources are used just on vision. Given that we are more dependent on vision than any other sense, it should come as no surprise that visual cues are the greatest catalyst of our behavior. For this reason, a small change in what you see can lead to a big shift in what you do. As a result, you can imagine how important it is to live and work in environments that are filled with productive cues and devoid of unproductive ones. Crazy.
Yeah, bro.
When you think about it, it's another thing. It's so obvious.
Mm-hmm.
How, I mean, and like, you can have kind of a free thought or whatever. And more so, like, if your eyes are closed and you're dreaming, I feel like is when that happens. Because otherwise, you have to almost see something to think something.
Mm.
Like, you almost have to see something to think anything. Like,
Do you think, now I saw this on Twitter, speaking of social media. Have you ever seen your phone in your dream?
I saw that too.
You saw that too?
Yeah, I don't
That went
think
viral? So like,
I don't
are we
dream
picking up our
much, but-
phones? Because we pick up our phones 9-10 times
Yeah.
an hour.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know?
for sure.
And you're like, is it just because it's there and you see it because you see that ding? But then your brain's just like doesn't recognize it as an actual thing when you're asleep?
I don't think I've ever seen my phone in my dream.
I've never.
Ever.
You've never, I mean, I don't dream very much, so I'm not the greatest person. I really don't dream very much, so I'm not the greatest person to ask you. But like not even like in emergencies, like no one's like call 911.
Oh, I mean, people say it, but like,
Yeah,
I don't
I've
know.
never-
you know,
don't
I'm
think-
never like,
I cannot vividly think of a dream where my phone was involved.
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
give you that.
Yeah.
It's weird. No, that part's weird.
right?
But like just to your point, the visualization thing, like it's like we have all those senses. Like I think it's cool how they talk about like I didn't even know that about a snake, about how it tastes the air to be able to
Mhm.
get its senses, and like eagles apparently, but eagles use their vision, but like it really is like, I mean, just speaking personally, like if there's something you're not trying to do, and then like I see something and it triggers something, and it's almost like your demise has already started. It's like, oh, I wish I didn't see that. Now I'm thinking this. Now I'm gonna do this, and now like because it's all triggered by vision. You rarely, maybe the only other one I would think of. I mean, I guess if you smell something, it might trigger something. Smell something from the other room, now you're hungry.
Yeah.
Hear a loud gunshot, now you're scared. But for the most part, it's almost like vision does like direct everything that we do.
Yeah. What was the one study they did about I think it was like a meth addict where they flashed or cocaine addict or whatever, where they flashed the image of cocaine
Oh
in
yeah.
like 3 milliseconds, where visually you can't even
see
recognize it.
Yeah, right.
Like you didn't recognize that you saw an image of that, but it triggered the brain. So
Made
the
him start
brain,
thinking about it. Yeah.
right? It made him start thinking about it and started that urge without even seeing it. Like how that's wild. Like your brain can recognize something, but you visually can't understand what you saw, but it still interprets it.
The mind's a powerful thing.
Like
That's what
what?
they say.
Yeah.
Like that is crazy. Yeah, I agree. Like 3 milliseconds.
Yeah, it's
That's
pretty
a snap is 100.
crazy. Mhm.
That's wild. But
You don't
Crazy.
even have to think about it. It just happens.
that
That's
makes you
nuts.
think just like how many things are flashing in front of your eyes that you have no clue.
Yeah.
You know,
And it gets processed without you even
Right.
thinking
Yeah.
saying buy those Steph Curry jerseys, just flashing.
it.
No, I stare at those.
You stare
I
at
stare
those.
at those.
You recognize
I
that.
bet they take
1
I take way too
millisecond.
long to get that.
But
I think he's got
yeah,
one on
you had
85.
something.
Yeah, just on 85. Just piggybacking off the whole idea. It's easy not to practice the guitar when the guitar is tucked away in the closet. It's easy not to read a book when the bookshelf is in the corner of the guest room. It's easy not to take your vitamins when they are out of sight in the pantry. So, visual cues, like, it made me think, like, what can I do to force myself to get into certain habits? And one thing I did take from this book is, like, I always keep my book, like, somewhere near me
Mm.
when we start reading. So either it's in the car next to me in the seat, or like I'll have it in my backpack if I'm traveling, or like even in the house, like I'll just leave it on my bed, because it's like I'm gonna have to move it, so I'm gonna have to see it.
Yeah.
Like what they were saying earlier with the pillow example, like you're gonna have to either pick it up and read it, or you're gonna pick it up and just put it down somewhere else. But yeah, that was one thing I grabbed from this book. Previously reading is just having that thing around so you can see it at all times. So it's already, it's like a thought in your mind.
It like points to like places like visualizing goals. Like, hey, you got it up on the wall. We're trying to raise this much money, or you got, or even the like. It made me almost like uh take back whatever judgment or whatever you want to call it you have on the people that like posters everywhere, like motivational stuff. It's just
Mm.
like, man, you don't think you're overdoing it? You can't. But then at the same time, it's just like, hey, like that's it makes you want to write something on your mirror whenever you're like in the bathroom, like have something there or have something. I don't remember what book made me want to do that. I'm trying. It might have been the 12 laws from Gary Vee or whatever it was, but that just like having certain motivational cues or just like that stuff like that around, just to be like, because sometimes you get down, but like the brain's so powerful that like you could find out that you could receive the news of the death of a loved one and just immediately still be positive.
Oh yeah.
But like that is awful, but like what a great life I still have. At least I thank God I'm still here. Oh my, like,
Mm.
and that's like the extreme. Like that's the extreme of it. But like that's the way that our our brains like can work. They
Yeah.
can work for you or they can work against you majorly,
Facts.
for sure.
I had something on 88.
Go ahead.
Oh, I thought this was, yeah, it just builds on top of the make it obvious is you can train yourself to link a particular habit with a particular context. In one study, scientists instruct insomniacs to get into bed only when they are tired. If they couldn't fall asleep, they were told to sit in a different room until they became sleepy. Over time, subjects became associated the context of bed with the action of sleeping, and it becomes easier to quickly fall asleep when they climbed in bed. Their brains learned that sleeping, not browsing on their phones, not watching television, not staring at the clock, was the only action that happened in that room. And then he goes on and it says, the mantra that I find useful is one space, one use.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
I mean, yeah, I thought that was interesting how they pointed out, like, even if you have a small apartment or whatever, your chair is
Right.
for reading.
the one desk,
Your
yeah,
your couch is for
watch TV,
gaming,
right?
for game time. Your whatever that is, because they said it's easier to associate, and it makes sense. It's easier to associate a new habit with the new context than to build a new habit in the face of competing cues. Where it's
Right.
like if you're always watching Netflix in your bed, it'd be tough to be like, I want to read in my bed or I want to do homework in my bed
Right.
or whatever. Like, I mean, really, like I've even noticed that, like even like at my house, like I want to read, like I try to read in the recliner and I try and read or I try and watch Netflix in the recliner. At the old house, like for whatever reason, we wouldn't use the recliner as often, but now I noticed like I was spent so much time just relaxing in that chair since we moved in that like it's almost easier for me to read like in the bed
Mm.
because I'm never in our bedroom.
Yeah.
But if I go just hop in the bedroom, kind of sit up or whatever, like I'll get in the recliner, I'll be like, oh, this is the same position that I just kick back and relax in.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay. So I'll be reading. I'm like, okay, wait, what was I just reading? And just
Yeah.
have to lock back in. Where it's just like, so now this is kind of funny. I didn't even, I almost, just in this moment, I realized I've created this habit. That's actually crazy. So now, whenever I want to read, I don't put the reclining seat up.
Oh, you don't
I
like
sit
sit
up.
back?
I have my
Yeah.
feet down, but I'm still chilling in the chair. I'll like do whatever, but my feet are like down. Whenever I'm watching, it's up. I got
It's
my
lean
feet
back.
up. Like I didn't even realize I was doing that because I would lean back and I would just almost get too comfortable or whatever it is, and just
Dude, I'm the same way. I can't really like sit back and read. I gotta like sit up and read. Whatever
I
reason.
like you can read fast. Read faster. I stay more locked in and stuff like that. That's funny. I just realized I did that.
There you go, man.
This book's making me build subconscious habits.
There you
That's
go.
not even the point. You're supposed to be doing it consciously.
Chapter 7.
Here we go.
The secret to self-control. Oh, this is where the study is about the one about the Flash.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, so I got a highlight on 93 that I put a star by because I thought this was really well put. I'll read the whole story first, and then the star comes kind of at the back half of this. So it says, when scientists analyze people who appear to have tremendous self-control, it turns out that those individuals aren't all that different from those who are struggling. Instead, disciplined people are better at structuring their lives in a way that does not require heroic willpower and self-control. In other words, they spend less time in tempting situations. And then this is the part I kind of started. The people with the best self-control are typically the ones who need to use it the least. It's easier to practice self-restraint when you don't have or it's easier to practice self-restraint when you don't have to use it very often. So yes, perseverance, grit, and willpower are essential to success. But the ways to improve these qualities is not by wishing you were a more disciplined person, but by creating a more disciplined environment. And I was like, that is preaching.
Yeah.
Like that, like reading that. First off, I like how they say, people who are all this I think books are smart when they put it this way, and especially the way our brain works, where it's like that person you think is so disciplined, they're not better than you, really. They just have a better environment than you.
Right.
Like they're really not that. Like they set it up to where they don't have to be like, oh, why can I not stop smoking cigarettes? Well, this person makes sure they take the route that's away from the smoke shop on the way home.
Right.
They don't go by that gas station. They just take the highways, or maybe they don't live in that area. And that's something that you could work to improve or whatever it is, like try and get out to a new spot or something. But like the people with the best self-control typically are the ones that don't need to use it. They need to use it the least. And I was like, that is like so profound.
Yeah. No, that was a great I highlighted that part too.
I thought that was a great highlight.
Yeah, it's just crazy because it makes you really think like we all are the same at some level, and then it's just like how you craft, basically this point was how you craft your environment. And obviously, if you have it crafted a certain way where you have friends that are smoking, for example, you're going to have to, deal with a higher willpower. So it's like, why do that to yourself?
And if you get to that point, like then you're probably those people that this person's talking about, like, oh, that person's so strong. But like if you can really feel the benefits of it, like it almost comes to like, what are you trying to feel in that moment of life? Like, are you really, really, really focused on being the best version of yourself? Or are you a little bit also focused on, giving yourself a break? Like, oh, I'm kind of going through it right now.
Yeah.
Like, I need a break. Or are you just hell-bent on, I gotta do better, I gotta get out of this? Then you won't put yourself in that situation. Like, it's just kind of just, I mean, and it's like I said, it's almost exhausting to some people, or even exhausting to think about trying to be that way all the time. But they say, like, whenever the benefits speak for themselves if you can get yourself to kind of be in that space.
Mm-hmm. I had something on 95. If anyone else has something.
I just highlighted these bullet points on 94 into 95, but I highlighted the first two in particular. If you can't seem to get any work done, leave your phone in another room for a few hours. If you're continually feeling like you're not enough, stop following social media accounts that trigger jealousy and envy. It's just small things that you can do.
Right. It's so
to improve
obvious.
Your environment.
So obvious.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, oh my gosh, I hate what I see on social media. Why are you following it?
Exactly.
You're following it,
Because
obviously.
if you want to talk about control, where you can follow accounts, but even social media now, it's crazy. It's crazy. They've made it to where you can't control what you see. You have a following tab, and you have a For You tab.
Right.
And on that For You tab, man, that is the only place really that I see stuff I don't want to see. Like I see stuff I don't want to see in the sense of, oh, like they're saying that about that person. That makes me so mad. I want to go at this person because this isn't the type of person I'd be following.
Right.
This is the type of person, but they know that that's going to get my engagement or whatever. That's going to make you want to say something or whatever it is, where it's just like, we're at the point now where it's like, unless you're only, but like, it's almost, we just don't, I don't want to say we seek like drama or whatever it is, but like, it's just, it gets a spark, it gets a rise out of you, and it's not the best thing for you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then it ends off, which I thought this was a perfect highlight to end it off. It says, the secret to self-control: make the cues your good habits obvious and the cues of your bad habits invisible. Just like that, building off what Miguel said with the bullet points. It's easier said than done, though.
Yeah. For sure.
Definitely. Because
having to think of like what environment changes you want to make.
Yeah.
Like, what's the list?
Because then that's when you, in that moment, when you have to make those changes, that's when you figure out how seriously am I taking this?
Right.
Like, how seriously am I going to take this? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, unless we, like right now, we're reading this book about habits, and then we'll move on to whatever book you choose. And we won't be talking about our habits, and we won't be talking about everything. So then it's just you and yourself, and you're fighting that battle alone.
Yeah.
And like, you can fight it with whoever your significant other is. But at the end of the day, I mean, unless you just spend your entire day with someone by your side, just holding your pocket,
Some
no,
accountability. Yeah.
you are legitimately going to have to make some of those decisions between you and yourself.
Mhm. Moving on. Chapter 8.
The second law.
The second law, make it attractive. Starting off with chapter 8, how to make a habit irresistible. And I had something on 102.
Go ahead,
the
I'm
next
on
page.
104.
Yeah, really good highlight here. Humans are also prone to fall for exaggerant versions of reality. Junk food, for example, drives a reward system into a frenzy. After spending hundreds of thousands of years hunting and foraging for food in the wild, the human brain has evolved to place a high value on salt, sugar, and fat. Such foods are often calorie dense, and they were quite rare when we were ancient ancestors roaming the savannah. When you don't know where your next meal is coming from, eating as much as possible is an excellent strategy for survival. Today, however, we live in a calorie-rich environment. Food is abundant, but your brain continues to crave it like it's scarce. Placing a high value on salt, sugar, and fat is no longer advantageous to our health, but the craving persists because our brain's reward centers have not changed for approximately 50,000 years. Wild.
And it almost goes like, it made me, just certain parts of this book just make me think of random examples. And I was thinking like marketing and the amount of money that companies use to research not only human behaviors, but what's popular, what's this and what's that, to where they can market something where it's like, this is what people want. And if you're not, I don't want to say reading, but if you're not analyzing and just thinking about stuff, it's so easy to just jump for, that's what they pay for.
Right.
They pay for the research, they pay, and then they pay to create the product that almost, not to, patronizing is a word I've been, but like, it just feeds on whatever the weakness is or whatever the desires are for of people for that company. It's just like, I think that's just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes down into like, other things is just like dynamic contrast of like how we're not used to that. For instance, they make the example of like an Oreo cookie, how it's hard on the outside, crack, but then it's got that smooth soft center on the inside. Like that's just like something that like is just super desirable for
They
any
spend
human,
all that money to figure out the perfect crunch of a potato chip.
right?
The
It's
perfect
crazy.
crunch
Like a
of a
Cheeto.
potato chip.
It's wild, and people have degrees on it,
And you don't even and for us it's just Lay's or Fritos
Right.
or what are we, and for them it's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. And then it makes you, and then for me it's just something with these newest brands, like they decided to make this product with the newest and the most information. So what is this about?
Right.
What is this going to be about? Because I mean, Coca-Cola's been around forever. Obviously, it's gone through iterations of not having cocaine in it compared to having cocaine. So like, yeah, you have to make changes and stuff. I can't remember what book it was, or if it was even a book that we read where it was just like talking about some of the different things that used to be allowed, like in certain drinks. Like you would be able to drink stuff that would have like stuff in it that would make your teeth fall out, just because it was like it would give you this certain type of sensation. I'm trying to remember what book it was, or if it was even in one that we read, but if it was just like some story that I was reading where like it was like some type of medicine, like not to the sense of cough syrup, but where it was just like, oh yeah, this has this in it. We didn't know it way back then. We got the research now, but like it will literally kill you in a month or two. Like
Yeah.
it leads to like just all these problems. Like it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes you realize like what in like 20, 30 years they're gonna be like, yeah, that was horrible for you. Like, really? I ate that almost every single day.
Yeah. They what was the one study? The frozen fries. Like frozen fries, it's like really bad for you.
Frozen French fries?
Yes, it's really, really bad for you.
Stop
That's
it.
all. Like,
You're
bro,
kidding.
Literally every fast food joint is just a bag of frozen fries. Everyone.
Bro, you might have to send that to me because I just had frozen
Yeah.
fries like last week.
Really?
Yeah, swear to you. That's like a big
Bro,
thing.
I mean,
That's a
so
big
did
thing.
me. So did I. I mean, people
Like,
people be eating frozen fries.
Wait, you talking
Yeah.
about like just in general? Like if
Yes.
it's in
Like
the
just the a potato being frozen as a fry,
yep.
even if it's at Sam's Club or wherever it's at.
Doesn't matter where it's from.
You're
It's
kidding.
not good for you. Yeah, bro.
What about the air fryer? Does
There's
that
a lot
like
of
does
things
that
that-
like reverse it or anything? Because
I'm
we
not
throw them in the
sure.
air fryer.
Air fryer might be a little
Man,
bit more helpful.
you're scaring me.
I saw something about like to that effect where like apparently caffeine, like just the chemical of caffeine. Obviously, too much of anything's a bad thing, but like apparently like. I ended up clicking off of it because I'm not gonna lie.
That's so
Because-
true.
Yeah,
You're like, oh, it could be right, but I ain't trying.
yeah. These day and age, you can make.
I'm
numbers.
locking this one in. I'm taking this one to deathbed if that's
I'd
what
be
kills
like,
me.
Yeah, that's an energy drink right over there. I don't need to read this. I don't need to see this right now. But yeah, I mean it's
That's interesting. I've heard mixed opinions, specifically on caffeine. But I've never heard about the frozen potatoes,
Yeah,
bro. You'll have to send me that because
People are doing too much research. Quit it.
stop it.
Quit it.
Do you want to? Yeah.
Everybody, even the freaking Chick-fil-A fries that everybody loves,
Stop
they
it.
come in frozen, completely frozen.
What
break
about
my heart
McDonald's?
now.
I watched them fry them right there.
Frozen.
My gosh,
All of it's frozen.
imposters.
Yeah.
What
No
about Five
way.
Guys? I'm just gonna
They-
start naming
they
everywhere.
have to be
What
frozen.
about Five Guys?
Those
What
are
about
great. Five
Those are
Guys
great.
what about Steak and
There's
Shake?
an asterisk.
Steak and Shake's got.
Asterisk. Five Guys beat them all.
Dude, if Chick-fil-A is not doing it right, then no one's doing it right.
Yeah, bro. They're dead.
Hate to break it to you. I got something on 105. Do you guys?
I
have
got
something?
106.
So I just thought it was cool how they talk about the dopamine driven feedback loop in this section at the top of 105. It says now scientists can track the precise moment a craving occurs by measuring a neurotransmitter called dopamine. The importance of dopamine became apparent in 1954 when the neuroscientists James Olds and Peter Milner ran an experiment that revealed the neurological process behind craving and desire. By implanting electrodes in the brain of rats, the researchers blocked the release of dopamine. To the surprise of the scientists, the rats lost all will to live. They wouldn't eat, they wouldn't have sex, they didn't crave anything. Within a few days, the animals died of thirst. And then it like kind of goes on to talk about some like follow-up studies and stuff like that whenever you would just release little hints of dopamine. And we've all kind of heard the term dopamine before, like it's the positive chemical that your brain obviously releases to make you happy. But it's just crazy, like obviously the measuring of that, but just then I feel like just finding different ways, even like visually or whatever it is, to uplift yourself in
Right.
like certain ways. Like
To
I
trigger
think
'em.
I think kind of the reality is like the world. I mean, if everyone has problems, right? Some people have less than others, but like everyone has problems. So it's like you gotta find ways to almost like reshape it to be like, oh, this person seems like they don't like. I've known people like, oh, this person seems like they never have a problem.
Mm.
Like they're like just always happy, like, and whatever it is, they probably picked up the habits and stuff like that when they were younger, right? Because we're all trying to build these habits now. If you don't feel that way, but it's like whatever their process is in the morning. Maybe it's because they get up at the same time every day. Like they don't ever have to deal with like, oh, I overslept today. Gosh, I feel lazy. They never have to. They just like they get up or whatever it is. They've just trained their man to be like, oh man, I could have done better at that, but like just giving yourself more grace because the sad thing is, and I've like been a chief of this, is like being super hard on yourself in a sense of being accountable, but at the same time it's like that's not maybe the best way to move forward and be productive, is to be like, you should have done better at that, you should have done that differently, you definitely should have done better at that, instead of like, you know, you could have done better at that, but you'll get it next time.
Mm.
Whatever it is, like finding ways to just, you know, get even in the midst of like struggle and stuff like that, like we were talking about, just some type of dopamine release to like to flip whatever you're on to get you to move past certain stuff like that, because it's, I mean, the rats lost their will to live
Yeah.
without dopamine.
Crazy.
Think about being depressed. Think about like, I mean, whenever you see someone depressed, it's like, hey, like have you gotten yourself to smile? Like, have you even gotten yourself to get anywhere? No, I don't want to. Like, well, if you stay in that loop, that driven feedback loop, that no dopamine feedback loop, it's like, hey, you can't. it's one of those things where like you see the saddest person, right? Or you're going through something super, and then you smile and you laugh or something like that. Like in that moment, you feel so good because you felt whatever you're feeling.
Right.
And of course, like you're probably gonna fall back into that because maybe you're going through something super tough. But like we all are wired to want to feel good. So then it's just like trying to figure out how do you set your environment up? How do you set your mind up to kind of think and feel that way?
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about the environment, really,
Yeah,
and
bro.
your perspective on it. My highlight on 106 was building off of what Landon said about the dopamine was interesting enough. The reward system that is activated in the brain when you receive a reward is the same system that is activated when you anticipate a reward. That is one reason the anticipation of an experience can often feel better than the attainment of it. As a child, thinking about Christmas morning can be better than opening the gifts. As an adult, daydreaming about the upcoming vacation can be more enjoyable than the actual being on vacation. I think that's crazy.
That is crazy.
That's wild. You're telling me that me just thinking about the reward might be better than actually achieving that reward itself. Like what?
I know it's like because you know it's coming. Like right now, like I was been talking to you guys. I'm getting ready to go to California, and just the anticipation of it because it's like it's still not stuck, but you're still doing whatever you're doing in that
Right,
certain
the
time frame.
excitement.
But you know it's coming.
Yeah.
Like you just know, like you're not in it yet, but you like in general, like just like I'm showing up to work and I'm just doing whatever, and then kind of let everything fall as it may, whether I do something on the weekend or I don't. But whenever you have something planned like that, it's just like, oh, okay, this like, oh, our ski trip's coming up.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going out to California. Like, whatever it is. Like, even the Christmas present example is perfect. Like, because I mean, everyone likes opening presents, but I don't think anyone likes opening presents more than knowing they're about to open presents the next day.
Right.
It's like why you can sleep just fine Christmas night, but you can't sleep Christmas Eve.
Right.
Like once you've gone through all the presents, it's not like, oh, I'm so excited about everything I got today. I just can't go to bed.
Right.
It's, oh, what am I gonna get tomorrow? I can't
Yeah.
wait. Like just the anticipation of it. That I thought that was definitely an interesting part of it.
I had something on 108. Go ahead, Miguel.
Take it.
Mine's at the bottom. It's just this story about this electrical engineer who he rigged up I think it was like a cycling machine.
Yeah, a bike.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
that was insane. But the topic is how to use temptation bundling to make your habits more attractive. So this dude was always watching Netflix, but he wanted to work out, so he decided like, let me just make this bike and rig it up to where if I am not pedaling at a specific pace, my Netflix show will pause, which is extremely that's incredible, bro. What a way to just make it convenient for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Mine was above it on 108. It was saying about desire. Desire is the engine that drives behavior. Every action is taken because of the anticipation that precedes it. It is a craving that leads to the response.
It's crazy. I actually had we all had a highlight on 108. I highlighted the first
Right
sentence
above it.
Yeah, right. No, I technically right above it, but at the top it says your brain is far more neural circuitry allocated for wanting rewards than for liking them, right? And then it says down towards the bottom a little further. For instance, researchers have found that 100% of the nucleus accumbens is activated during wanting. Meanwhile, only 10% of the structure is activated during liking. So it's one of those things where it's just, yeah, your anticipation of it and you're wanting to do something lights up 100% of your brain.
Yeah.
But whenever you're actually doing it, like during the actual liking portion of whatever it is that you were wanting, only 10% is being used because it was all the build up. Okay, now it's here. It's almost like the release, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I want to get this weight off. Then you rack it, and then it's like, oh, like I wanted to bench 245. I was so excited about it. And then once you get it done, you're just like relieved.
Right.
Like relief. Okay, I benched that. Thank goodness. But like, I don't know. I thought that was kind of crazy.
Now it's on a 255.
Yeah, exactly. And then you start getting way more amped up for that than whatever you had accomplished or whatever.
Anything else for chapter 8? One thing about this book that I kind of like is just like the chapters are really quick.
Yeah.
Gosh, that does make it
Yeah.
a little bit easier to get through for sure.
Nothing else.
Yeah, we can move.
Chapter 9, the last chapter, the role of family and friends in shaping your habits. I thought this was an interesting story. Just how about the chess masters,
Mm-hmm.
how
Holy cow! How's that
this
story?
Hungarian man named Laszlo Polgar, basically his thought process was, I'm gonna take the shaping of the environment and the habits built around the family to the extreme. And he said, in short, in summarizing the entire story, it was he met this lady named Clara, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna raise our children to be obsessed with chess."
He didn't even know her. I thought that the idea and the proposal had to come from like two
Oh.
scientists. You know,
Oh yeah,
it's like
it
so.
really,
It's like, hey, would you be interested in having kids as an experiment with me?
exactly. What a crazy thought process.
Hopefully, they liked each other at
Yeah.
all, because it sounds like it was like an experiment. I mean, you almost. Hopefully, they liked each other, because
Yeah.
otherwise, it's just like, hey, yeah, we're gonna have these kids and see what happens.
Yeah, but basically, in short, they had these two girls, or three girls,
yeah.
Susan, Sophia, and Judith, and all they did was just play chess. They at home, or studied chess, stuff like that. They all became grandmasters, super successful chess players, and at the end of it, people were asking just like, what did people think of it, or like, you're growing up, and they didn't think anything about it. They didn't think anything was different or wrong about it, which is so crazy because like they're out of that lifestyle now, but it just shows like perspective that like that's all we knew and that's how we had fun. And
And they must have, like, if you're reading it based off this book, they had to be positively reinforcing
right,
it, you know?
exactly.
Like, it wasn't like a
wasn't
get in your room and play chess.
yeah,
You're playing, like, they wanted to play chess. They would find his daughter in the middle of the night in the bathroom playing chess.
yeah,
Mhm.
crazy.
Uh,
I thought that was just a crazy story overall. The next thing I have is on like 117.
I actually highlighted the top portion of 115 where it's talking about the seductive pull of social norms. It says humans are herd animals. We want to fit in, to bond with others, and to earn the respect and approval of our peers. Such inclinations are essential to our survival. For most of our evolutionary history, our ancestors lived in tribes. Becoming separated from the tribe, or worse, being cast out, was a death sentence. The lone wolf dies, but the pack survives, is the quote. And it says, meanwhile, those who collaborated and bonded with others enjoyed increased safety, mating opportunities, and access to resources. As Charles Darwin noted, in the long history of humankind, those who learned to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. As a result, one of the deepest human desires is to belong, and this ancient preference exerts a powerful influence on our modern behavior. I thought that was crazy just to kind of talk about. I mean, whenever you relate it back as far back as like the beginning of essentially caveman times, where we were just, hunting and stuff like that in packs and stuff, like we're here, right? Like, we're all animals. We're humans, but like we have the same tendencies to a certain degree as animals and stuff like that, where we have this, we're hardwired to want to collaborate and be along with people. Otherwise, why would we call other people outcasts?
Right.
Or why would we call other people like, you're a loner, or like, because sometimes it can be what you want to do, and but even if you are someone who just wants to be alone, you're different. You're a loner because for every 2 people that are loners, 10 aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Or for every 1 that isn't, 5 aren't. Like, it's just the way that is. So I think it's something interesting to like acknowledge, because I used to like kind of straddle that fence. Like, do I like to go out and do more and like be around people? But at the same time, it's like, because for me personally, like my natural inclination is to kind of just relax, chill, be at home. I think all of us are a little bit similar in that way, where we don't just go out and try to be the life of the party. That being said, when you do go out with a bunch of people and you are having fun, it kind of, to me, does trump whatever just your normal lifestyle would be. Just going home and chilling. You do that all the time anyways, right? But you're just out with a bunch of people, getting to hang out. Oh, okay, this was like really fun. Do I want to do this every night? I don't think I got that in me. But even to our point, like, okay, we are kind of hardwired to want to get along, to want to be with people, to, certain stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it kind of goes into just like breaking down the habits of being with friends and family, and it says how imitate the habits of three groups in particular when it comes to it. We imitate the close, we imitate the many, and we imitate the powerful. So I thought it was just interesting just about the close. As a general rule, the closer we are to someone, the more likely we are to imitate some of their habits. A ground-breaking study tracked 12,000 people for 32 years and found that a person's chances of becoming obese increases 57% if he or she had a friend who became obese. So it's just crazy, like how, and there's things like when I read that, there was things that I picked up from my fiance, just like small habits and stuff like that about like the way she locks her car, like stuff like that. Like she always locks her car with the door handle, because she's got that door handle lock, and I have one in my car. I do it all the time now, even though I have the key. I never did that before. It's just like super small things like you don't even realize.
Like you talked before with the whole how she cuts her bread and stuff like that.
Yeah, oh yeah, from her mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just so crazy like how many things that like visually the visual cues, it just goes back to that too. It's just like,
And it seems like they really put a focus on environment, like
Yeah.
for this section. I had like a star next to this highlight just below where you were at, where it says one of the most effective things you can do to build better habits is join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. New habits seem achievable when you see others doing them every day. If you are surrounded by fit people, you're more likely to consider working out a common habit. If you're surrounded by jazz lovers, you're more likely to believe it's reasonable to play jazz every day. Your culture sets your expectation for what is normal. Surround yourself with people who have habits that you want to have yourself, and you'll rise together. It's the whole thing where like that's where you see like they reference the thing like the nerd gym.
Oh,
A bunch
right.
of Star Wars people wanting to also be, because if you want to, that's the problem is like if you want to grow and expand, but not box yourself into a certain thing. Like you want to surround, you love Star Wars, but that doesn't mean you just want to love Star Wars and then just be a Star Wars lover. Like you want to evolve to like, I love Star Wars. I also love working out.
Mm.
So now you're doing both at the same time where it's like, and I mean, I think the reality is us as a race or us as a culture of just people are just prone to judge. I think just because we see people different than us, and it's the easy thing to do. Especially, I mean, it could be out of jealousy. It could be out of just like, I don't, because it's not always out of jealousy. Sometimes it's just out of trying to prop yourself up. I think it almost is like one of the two coins where you're either jealous or you think you're better. Where it's just like, oh, okay, like that's weird or that's different or I wish I was like that, so I'm gonna kind of bag on it or something like to those lines where you don't want to buy, like that's kind of what this book is kind of showing me, like creating habits to where you want to continue to improve in certain aspects, and then what the best ways are to kind of facilitate that.
Yeah. I don't. I have last highlight was on the summary on that. So I thought it was also just really interesting the many portion. I thought that was just crazy. Just like they had that experiment where there was just one guy and everyone was actors, and they said which line was longer, and all the actors picked B when obviously or picked whatever they chose the wrong answer, and then the one individual was like,
Groupthink.
it's definitely short, and then he looked around and he's like, wait a second, and then started second guessing himself. That's so crazy powerful.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
So if you're basically wrapped, I got something on the bottom of 120
Yeah, go ahead.
where it goes, humans are similar. This is a tremendous internal pressure, or there is a tremendous internal pressure to comply with the norms of the group. The reward of being accepted is often greater than the reward of winning an argument, looking smart, or finding truth. Most days, we'd rather be wrong with the crowd than be right by ourselves. And when changing your habits means challenging the tribe, change is unattractive. When changing your habits means fitting in with the tribe, change is very attractive. So that's where they talk about making your stuff, like making it attractive
Yeah.
if it's a positive thing, making it invisible if it's a negative thing.
Anything else?
Wraps me.
That's it.
All right, I'll end it off with my highlight. Chapter summary is we imitate the habits of the three social groups: the close, family, friends, the many, the tribe, and the powerful, those with status and prestige. That's what it breaks it down to. And that was it for part 2. Now on to part 3. We are reading up to
So 120, it should be around like 180, 190.
we read up to chapter 15. I don't know. That's That's a thick read.
120. It should be like one. Is that right? So
I mean, I guess it's another 5
7,
chapters.
6. No, we've been doing about 60 something pages. So yeah, it's like should be about like 180 ish. What's it around the 180? The fourth law goes
chapter
up to
15 is 183.
Yeah, I think we should do that because that goes up to the fourth law.
Okay.
That'll set us up for the last
And
law.
then we'll finish it off.
I think the last section might be
It's a
the
little
chunk,
thicker.
the-
It's 253 to 180. It's around.
But we're kind of on a short week right now, anyways. Even though not technically, because I won't be back next Monday, so we'll be on Wednesday again.
right.
But
Okay. Well, we'll go with 15, and we've read 100-page weeks and no biggie.
oh yeah, and this isn't the hardest
Yeah.
No.
the hardest
it's an
read.
easy
So
read.
we're going up to
reading up to chapter 15, right?
chapter 15. So ending right there at the fourth law.
Right. Or do we want to go 16? I saw Miguel was at 16.
It's up to you. That's a clean break for the fourth law, or we
Yeah.
can go one more chapter.
I mean, Landon's gonna be on vacation. I don't want him to read too hard.
Okay.
True.
Okay. We'll give him a break.
I got a 6.5 hour flight, man.
Yeah. We'll
No,
give
it's
him a
okay.
break.
Apparently, I'm watching movies on that flight.
Yeah.
I've got to at least
Enjoy
read a little
yourself.
bit. Got to at least read a little bit. All right, we'll go up to the fourth law, all the way up to chapter. What'd you say, 15?
Yeah. Up to chapter 15.
Up to 15.
All right. Switching over to our short snippets. What do we got first? Who wants to go first? You got, you got the quote?
Yeah,
Alright.
let's keep it. We'll just keep it right to left now, since
All right.
you always wrap us up with the
Alright.
craziness.
This one's so good.
All right, here we go. This is by Dale Carnegie. Success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you get. Let me read that one more time.
Ooh.
Success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you get.
Being happy with whatever happens.
Yeah. Whew.
Okay?
You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit.
There you go.
I
All
like
right.
that.
What's our
All right, we got a
Thought-provoking
thought-provoking question.
question.
This one we didn't do it based off of habits for this one. So my thought-provoking question for today is, if you guys didn't know what your age was, how old do you think you would be? Like you're not your age right now. Like how old do you feel? How old do you act? How old what
Oh,
is your
I was like
what
thinking
is
like
your-
if I
it
was
could be-
looking at
no,
myself.
So sure, like how
Okay.
like just it can mean whatever you have, but that's the extent of the question. If you didn't know what your age is, what would you say you are right now?
I think I'm like looking at myself in the monitor right now. I'd say I definitely look older than I am. I'd say I'm like 28.
So just a couple years older.
Yeah.
Just a couple years older.
Yeah.
What about you?
I say a couple years younger. Cause
For sure.
I've always been told like, yeah, bro, you look like you're 25. I'm like, I wish.
Yeah, I agree. No, because I remember when you actually told us
Yeah.
your age, we were like, nah, what? You're 28? We're like, what?
Yeah, bro.
What about you?
I think it's
I would say like 21.
Oh, young.
I could go for that.
Like I mean I just yeah
That-
that for whatever reason my body feels probably a little bit not like it did when I was 21.
So you,
But
so you're portraying if someone looked at you, you think you'd be
not
21,
really. Not
or you feel
necessarily. I don't-
21.
Yeah, more so just almost like, almost not to call out immaturity, but just like to say, kind of feel like I act more like just hanging out, just wanting to be younger, like being able to relate to both ways. It also doesn't feel like I've been out of college and high school as long as I actually have been.
Yeah, that always
Like
hits
I just
different.
like it just like legitimately like I can see I see myself wanting to go and play and stuff like that. And whenever you're 22, reasonable. 23, reasonable. 24, you're just kind of outside of that. 25 now up to 26, it's just like, hey, like you're
You're playing in the men's league.
like
Yeah.
you're out of that right now.
Yeah,
Like
you're not playing with high school.
there's a player on North Carolina that's 26 years old. I'm like, bro, what are you still doing in college? And then I'm just like, but I feel like I could still be in college. But I'm like, oh, but like I'm right there with this guy who's way on the outside.
17.
Yeah, so for I don't know
It's a
what it
9-year
is. Yeah,
difference.
just like feel like 21 might be young, like 21, 22, 20, like just
Young 20.
just
I
like
think I
a
could
few
go for
years
that,
younger.
though. If I just saw you and I didn't know you, I'd be like, yeah, dude's probably like 20, 21 around that time.
There's a few ways I could take that, but I'll take it as a compliment.
There you go.
Just based off of looks. So I'll leave it at that.
That's weird because I've always been told like I looked older.
Really?
He has your
Legitimately.
mustache, yeah.
Well, yeah, I always have a clean shaven face, but like either that or I never got ID'd, so they acted like I looked older. But
Do you get ID'd?
I've never thought I looked that much older though. Like, so honestly, that was more that something that I had heard than what I actually felt. Like,
Mm.
I feel like to a certain extent, I still look on the younger side.
Mm.
I don't look like Nick did whenever we were in college, with the long
Oh,
hair and
yeah.
our
Looked like he
Australian
was
friend.
38.
I mean, he almost was. He was super old whenever we were. It's crazy. Our roommate, or one of our friends in baseball, whenever we played baseball in college, came over from Australia, and we were all like, 17, 18, just out of high school, and he was like, what, 22 or he was like 22 or 23, and at the time, like at JUCOs, it's all like freshmen or sophomores basically. So we were all just like 17, 18
That was
years old,
crazy.
and he
Yeah,
was
we're
like
whoa.
22,
Wait,
23.
this guy's a grandpa. Yeah. Now we're over here
He
25,
did
26,
seem
27.
he did seem older though, and act older too. I like to goof around too sometimes. So I mean, I just feel like I'm on the younger side than the older side.
All right, here it comes.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Our favorite segment.
Oh, yeah.
Are they wrong?
Are they cheating?
Am I wrong for putting peanuts in my food and not putting an allergy label on it, knowing that the food thief is allergic? So my office recently got a new hire, Omar. He's a young Muslim guy, fresh out of college, and ever since he was onboarded, my food has been going missing. I mention his religion because I'm also Muslim, and it's hard not to find halal food on short notice. It's been really difficult not having food to eat because it's been stolen. My theory is that he stole my food because I'm not only obviously Muslim, not only I'm the only obvious Muslim in the office, and I wear hijab, and have mentioned going to the mosque. He knows that my food is okay to eat. I've tried talking to him about this, but he always plays dumb and denies knowing that about missing my meals. And the title always says Omar. And as the title says, Omar is allergic to peanuts. On Friday, I brought leftovers, which included peanuts. I made sure the label of the package clearly with my name, and I didn't think to include any label about having peanuts in it. No one else in the food office uses allergy labels on their food. It didn't even cross my mind. When I got to the fridge, I realized my food once again was missing. I rushed over to Omar's desk, where, of course, I rushed over to Omar's desk, where, of course, I found him eating my food and told him that the lunch that he stole had peanuts in it. His eyes got really wide, and he went for his EpiPen, and thank goodness he injected himself before the reaction got really bad. After Omar got done panicking about his reaction and he blew up on me, he said I could have killed him, and I should have said that he'd be in danger if he wasn't a liar and a thief. He told me that it was my fault for not putting an allergy label on the packaging, and I said that I'm lactose intolerant, but I don't expect everyone to put labels on their dairy because I don't steal other people's food. He said that it's different because milk won't kill me, and said that it's not the same principle. HR has ruled in my favor and now requires HR has ruled in my favor, but now requires allergy labels on all foods. The entire office is mad at me, not just for the inconvenience of labels, but because I targeted Omar and tried to kill him. Now I feel bad. Am I in the wrong?
You go ahead.
I'm
You
gonna
kick it off.
Bro, no.
No?
You're not wrong at all, because why is he eating your food? Like, bro, that just, like, why are you eating somebody else's food? First off, and you know you have allergies. It's like, I'm
But
just gonna go ahead and dabble into this person's food. I don't know what they have in it or what's in there, but I'm still gonna do it. So
you are actively knowing that he's been taking your food and he has a peanut allergy and that food had peanuts on it.
I'm still siding with this other person.
Okay.
Like, don't eat
Not in the
other
wrong.
people's food.
Gotcha.
Don't do that.
Landon.
No.
Man, I look forward to the day that we disagree, but we don't disagree on this one. I mean, at first, the context is important. He said he didn't necessarily knowingly, like he kind of forgot that there were peanuts in it for a second whenever he brought it, because it's just
Right.
his food, right? And you don't have to label everything. If this guy had, like he said, he had confronted him, he had denied it and played dumb like he wasn't doing it. My one question is, if you realize your food was gone and you go over to his desk and you see him eating your food has got to be in almost your Tupperware.
Yeah.
It is your food. You probably could have done that at a different time and just been like, haha, you are eating my food. Like, I caught, like, my food has been disappearing around this. Like, I'm going to go over and I'm going to see, like, so maybe this was just a one-off situation. But at the same time, like, yeah, I'm kind of with Tim. Like, you can't Just be. Yeah, I mean, it's irresponsible if you have that severe of an like I don't have food allergies. I'm not saying I'd eat someone else's food, but I wouldn't eat someone else's food and be like, I hope this doesn't kill me. Like if it's that,
That's
like
so
the
true,
fact,
bro.
the fact that he tried to
That's so
flip
true.
it, I'm so far on the other dude's
How
side.
dare
just because,
you.
like, how dare you try to kill me? It's just like I actually tried to save you.
Right.
You're trying to kill yourself
Yeah.
by just going around thinking you can eat whatever whenever you can't eat whatever.
Mm,
Lactose intolerant people just can't go around and eat whatever may or may not have
Right.
milk in it or whatever. Like, yeah, no, that's a I like that story though. That was funnier, but yeah, no, I definitely am on the other guy's side. But what about you?
yeah, I agree. I agree.
I can't wait till we disagree.
I agree, but like also, yeah, this definitely like could have gone a different way. Like if
I
you
mean-
knew that, you could. I would have just slapped on includes peanuts. Like I would have been the one
On
that
everything, right?
on every food that you would have just slap on has peanuts on it
True.
and be like, yeah,
Someone
you
says
ain't.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And the
see Omar
reality
eating
is-
it and it says it has peanuts on it. Yeah, that dude's just trying to.
And if he said, I mean, yeah, luckily he had the EpiPen there, and like, you know, if you're that deathly allergic, hopefully, like you'd be, you know, I mean, I don't know how all this stuff works, but like, oh, I got a serious reaction coming on. I better, and I'm also eating some random person's food, so I better go ahead and stick myself with this EpiPen. Like, it's not like
It's
you
so
could,
crazy.
you could have killed me if like I was eating your food, got up to go to the restroom, then the reaction hit, then there's no one around. Otherwise, like, it seems like you had the opportunity. It's a good thing you have your EpiPen on you too, I guess, because if you don't have that, then we may be talking about something entirely different. Because
Yeah.
if like something, but like that's just like the sad thing. That's just how precious life is sometimes. Like that,
Yeah.
people die for way less.
All
For
right.
way less.
The follow-up question is:
Oh gosh.
did Omar learn his lesson, or do you think he's gonna continue to eat other person's food?
I hope he learned it from.
I think you can literally tell based off of someone's character.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
how deep is this guy? Like, is he just a certified food eater? Like someone where it's just like, oh, like this person doesn't like
Right.
they're not gonna learn. Like there's
Do you think
I,
so?
I
now,
feel like there's
now
people
that
that
all
can
the
learn
food
and not
has
learn.
labels on it and stuff like that, he's gonna be like, oh, staying away from that.
I can't
diving in
believe
for
the
this.
office. I mean, I understand the office being mad about the labels, but I can't believe the office flipped on them and we're just like,
Yeah.
you were trying to do this. Like,
Intentionally hurting someone.
but the thing is, I also get it because if these are the two Muslim people in the office and it's only affecting this one guy, and now like that just shows the selfishness of human nature.
Yeah.
Like where it's just like, okay, now we all got to do this because you about killed this guy. It's easy to say that, you know, so because then you have someone to blame, other rather than just it making sense. Now
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, now like he never stole my food. We don't eat food that he can have. Like it's something that he deliberately knew. That's why
Right.
it's just like
Fred, no one wants your freaking meatballs
your-
and mashed
your tuna
potatoes.
sandwich, yeah. Like, but I think that's a funny
See,
scenario though.
I knew you'd like that, guys. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up our short snippets and overall the podcast part 2 of the Atomic Habits by James Clear. Thank you so much for everyone listening. And remember, we are reading from chapter 10 all the way up to chapter 15. So
The fourth
make sure
law.
you guys do that, and we will be back next week. Till next time, guys. Peace.